The views, comments, and opinions of the following program do not necessarily reflect those of Morris Media Studios, MorrisMediaLive.com, or its affiliates. Listener discretion is advised.
All because I wanna hold you tight. But every time
All right, y'all. Without any further ado, this is a very, very, very special edition of Uncle Bobby's Country Corner where real men don't play. To my immediate left is a part of American history, Mickey Stevenson. Welcome to Uncle Bobby's Country Corner.
Welcome to be here, Bobby.
Man, that song, I had no idea how many times me and the fellas in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, hanging out on the corner of University and Reed Alley, we used to huddle up and try to make that work. Little did I know, all these many years later, I'd be sitting across from a man who I've gotten to know well enough to feel that we're friends. Because I'm going to tell you what he did for me. First of all, he's not a relic whatsoever. And in the second half of the show, we're going to talk about his life right now and how he's still moving the needle in the performing arts arena. But when that song came out, man, it was a whole lot of shaking going on, and it started in the city of Detroit. And if you would, kind of just take us back through how Motown became Motown.
Well, that's going to take a while. But I tell you what, I'll start with that particular song.
That's a good spot. Yeah.
When Berry Gordy came to my office, let me go back a little further. Berry bought his sister's record company and put it into our company, which was Motown, all right? Family Motown, blah. All right, now, when he absorbed the company, she had Marvin Gaye and Harvey Fuqua. Remember Harvey Fuqua, Moonglows?
Right,
all right, right. Harvey brought Marvin to Berry's sister's label to kind of help build that label. And Marvin was singing this jazz, and Harvey was producing. Lamont Dozier of Holland Dozier was the piano player and artist for that label as well. So it was not a Holland Dozier at that time. Mm-hmm. It was just Lamont there. Yeah. And okay. Now, but moving right along, when Berry absorbed that line, and he knocked on my door, and I said, "What's up, Chief?" I call him Chief. He said, "Now, you say you can do anything?" I said, "Yeah, I can do anything in this business." He said, "Okay, I want to hit on him." He had Marvin standing with him. I said, "But I did my history on Marvin, my research." I said, "Okay, man, but Marvin, BG, come in and tell you, he's a jazz artist.
He want to be Frank Sinatra.
He want to be Sinatra, Perry Cobo and all that kind of stuff." I said, "That's not our thing." He said, "I didn't say get a standard on him. I say a hit. I don't care what kind of record it is." I said, "Wait a minute." He said, "You say you can do anything, didn't you?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Okay, well, prove it." I said, "Okay, leave him with me." So Berry left. So me and Marvin started talking. Now, in my research of finding out about all the artists that was on the label, because I knew eventually I'd have to do something since I'm the A&R man of the other company, of Motown.
You might well turn that off. It's going to be ringing all day.
Oh, you know that. You know about that. So I said, okay. I studied Marvin's stuff, and I found out that in the other songs on Marvin's album, he put out about 2 or 3 jazz albums. Mm-hmm. I said, okay, you write some pretty good lyrics. He said, yeah. I said, well, you're a songwriter along with being a singer. He said, well, I do what I can do. I said, let's write some songs together. He said, man, you'll write. I said, you write some songs with me, and I will do a jazz album on you. He said, I got your word on that, William R.? I said, you got my word. So he said, okay. So we started writing together. So after 6 o'clock on my hours of working the company business from 9 to 5, at 6, I started doing some producing and writing for myself. So he and I start working together. And we do songs for maybe Contours or the Four Tops and female group, and we're got 3-4 songs working on constantly. This was going on for about a month and a half. Now, at the company, I had maybe 5 rooms. In those rooms, we had tape recorders, pianos. And, you know, the old tape deck, you know, with the two reels going and blah, blah, blah. Okay, so we had that rolling. And the purpose is every time we get an idea or you come up with a moment, you got to record it. Because if you don't, you know, those things, it's gone. So we can't keep doing that. So over a period of this time, we're working on this tune. And I had Marvin's lines and my lines as we writing together. I come up with a verse or melody. Hey, baby, why don't you come on back? And he'll sing his. He tried to go, hey, baby, why don't... I said, no. Got to go to church, brother. Why don't you, baby? You got to get down. Yeah. You know, so, of course, we started rolling. So I come in the office about 2 or 3 months later. I go in, and I clip all of my parts of the song out. And I tape all of his together. Now, you know, in those days, you had to take a razor blade, cut the tape, take a piece of tape, put it on it, and seal it together to tie them up. Like, wasn't like a computer where you can just press a button and close stuff up.
Right.
So Marvin comes in that evening. I said, I want you to listen to something. I pressed the button. And he heard all of his verses tied together soulfully. Mm-hmm. He said, oh, man. I said, how'd that sound to you? He said, that sound pretty good, man. I said, do me a favor. Why don't you sing this song? I knew we were doing it for whatever group, but why don't you sing this song? Here's what'll happen. It'll take me off the hook with Barry, because I promised to get a record on you, and then I can do your jazz album. He said, you want me to record this to him? I said, you see you can do it. You're listening to yourself. I said, any part of the song that's not comfortable for you, because we have the earphones on in the studio, I'll just sing it in the mic, and you just follow that. He said, so you're going to be with me all while I'm doing it? I said, yeah. I'm going to produce it. He said, okay. So we go in the studio. We cut the track. Now he's singing on the song. After I dubbed him in about 2 or 3 moments, he didn't need me no more. He go like this, I got it. So he finished the song. So I go to Barry. I said, he said, man, me and Barry bet $500. He said, I said, okay, man, give me $500. He said, for what? I said, here's Marvin's tune. He said, I said a hit. I said, here's Marvin's tune. Give me my $500. He said, let me see. He put it on his box. He played it. He said, oh, man, how'd you do that? I said, you don't want to know. Just give me my $500. So that's how Stubborn Kind of Fella got recorded.
My Lord.
Yep,
yeah.
You follow me?
Yeah.
Of course, it didn't stop there because now Marvin said to me, okay, man, let's do the jazz album. I said, Marvin, the sales department told me I had to have a follow-up. Now, I need you to, let's give me one more. Give me one more tune so I can, get them off my back. Right. And then we'll get into the jazz album. Yeah. We do Hitchhike or something like that, right? Man. Another hit, right? Yeah. And now I saw him again. Hey, Marvin. He said, shut up, William Marvin. I ain't going to never get to this jazz album. I say, well, how you like where you going? He say, I like it. So that's how Marvin Gaye became the Marvin Gaye. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I want to go off the grid a little bit because you have a book out, and we'll discuss that more in the second half of the show, that's entitled The A&R Man, right? Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And people can buy that on Amazon.
On Amazon.
There it is right there, The A&R Man.
Yeah.
Now, was there a such thing as an A&R man before Mickey Stevenson?
Yes, there were. Every company had its A&R man. And that's how, and the job is the description of the job is the same. It's artist and repertoire. That's what the A&R represents. And every company had to have an A&R man because he was the guy, and I don't think they had any female A&R men, as I remember back then. But anyway, he was the guy that you had to, he would try to find the artist, and an A&R man takes an artist, a writer, a producer, musicians, try to find the song, put it all together, and make records. That's the purpose and the points of that job. Mm-hmm. So
that's a little different than Motown, though, wasn't it?
No, same. Only we went at it with a passion. In most cases, A&R guys in my time, they were 9-to-5 workers like anybody else. More or less an assistant to finding artists to sit down with a board and a board decide we have 9 acts here we found over the last 3 months, and different people in that board would make decisions and vote on whether they use that artist or not, et cetera, or even sign that artist. But at Motown, we didn't have the luxury of that. We were a company very tight, very close. And my job was to answer all those questions. When I brought the artist, I didn't have a board to discuss whether we signed them or not. When I brought the artist, I brought the contract, sign it. You follow what I mean? Or take your business someplace else. Mm-hmm. Real simple. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm not saying it in a bad way. What I'm saying is we had to win. So to win, you got to give it your best. To give it your best, you got to look for the best, to do the best, to get the best. So I didn't bring 10 artists. When I went into the meeting with the sales department, market department, or with Barry, I had already signed the artists, and I was letting them know what artist is now going to be on this label. You got it? Mm-hmm. Now, I'm not saying it in an ego way. I'm simply saying that we didn't have the luxury of taking 2 or 3 weeks to decide what we're going to do. We were a black company in a world of people who were not going to allow us to go no further than they wanted us to go.
Race records.
Race, thank you very much. So now we had to be our own company, make our own decisions, and make them the best way we could, and get results.
Who was one of the first artists that you put in that position where you signed them, brought them to Motown, and then put them into that machine?
All right, let me, one of my first artists I brought there was, I think it was the Contours.
That's the group that Dennis Edwards was in, wasn't it?
A long time ago,
right.
Yeah, but it's a very, very difficult first, because I was looking all the time. You know what I mean? I was on a hunt. And we had an artist with us at the time when Barry decided to build his own line. He had an artist called Marv Johnson. Marv Johnson was an artist who was actually signed to Universal. Mm-hmm. And so we were producing songs at Motown on him that would be released on Universal. Okay. Pardon me. We took him to our label when his contract ran out with Universal. Mm-hmm. So the hunt and the battle was on from day one. We had to, let's say, Lamont, other producers there would bring in artists as well as I would, mm-hmm. but they would have to bring them to me. Right. I was the board, shall we say. Okay. And I would listen and say, or I like that act. Okay. Let's keep that one. We'll sign that one. Okay. And so it went like that. So say, who's the best artist, the first artist I brought? Let's just say some of the ones we signed came from all of us hunting.
Well, and I wanted to back up my claim that you were an architect of the music and the soundtrack for the late 50s, the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, and the 90s, and have it be a truthful statement. And you just emboldened me to say that now, because now I better understand how that was different with respect to what A&R people typically do. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Because you had Smokey and some other people who were attracting artists.
Hunting.
Right. Hunting is the word that you're using. Now, that takes me to the greatest studio band in the history of recorded music, mm-hmm. known as the Funk Brothers. How did that come together?
Almost in the same way that we found the artists, only in this case, I was a solo individual doing that. Mm-hmm. When I had made my decision to go with Barry with this company for $5 a day, let me repeat that, $5 a day and all the chili you could eat. It's all in my book, but I'll tell you about that. When I made my decision to go with this, Smokey, who I call my brother, he was with Barry as a friend and one of the people in the company. So it was Barry Gordy, Smokey Robinson. Then it became Barry Gordy, Smokey Robinson, Mickey Stevenson, right? Smokey had a session coming up, and he said to Barry, "Oh, man, you got Mickey in here?" And he turned right to me because we were in high school singing, like you say, on the street corners together, right? Yeah. He said, "Man, Mickey know all the musicians. He know everybody." And he said, "Man, I got a session coming up in a couple of days, and I need some great guys to play." I said, and my line was at all times, "I got this. Don't worry about it." So I went out looking for the best musicians I could find. Now, to make that even clearer, there were great musicians in Detroit. And getting the best was getting the best that would work under the terms that we had to operate under, not the terms other companies were operating under. They were paying more money than us. They had more artists to work with than us, but they didn't have the love and care that we brought to the table. So say you were a bass player, and I come to you and say, "Look, man, I need you to play with us at Motown. Now, I know you're good, and I know they pay X amount of dollars. We ain't got that kind of money. We got this kind of money. But I promise you that as we grow, you'll grow. We cannot grow without you because you're going to be part of the fiber that makes records. So you will be the bass player here with this company without no other choices with other people. You got it. Now, that's a decision you got to make. But my word to you is this. If you stick with us, we're going to stick with you. And as we grow, you're going to grow. Period. Every time we get better product and make more money, you get more money for every session. My opening session project money was like $10. Well, now, you getting 10, I ain't getting but 5. You see what I'm saying? You get 10 a session, I get 5 a day. Now, you want to trade places? So when the guy said, "Well, how much you making?" I said, "It's not about the money. It's about building something that belongs to us. It's like a family thing." So in finding the guys to work, that was the dialogue and the meaningful seed planted for where we had to go. If you didn't see that, I can't take you on.
Now, you mentioned bass players, and that's more than ironic to me as an example of musicians. I never met the man, but his mastery of the bass became the signature of many songs that came out of the Motown machine, and I'm talking of the incomparable James Jamerson, also known as Igor. Yeah. You know, where did you encounter him at? You already knew him, obviously.
I knew, James. But I got to take you back again on how with musicians in Detroit. Before I got with Barry, I would book musicians and artists in the clubs in the city. All right? That came about because knowing the artists, knowing some of the musicians, and being friends, I enjoyed myself in the evening. One of them came up to me one day and said, "Hey, William R., man, let me borrow $20. I'll get back to you as soon as I get my next check." And I said, "Okay, I'll loan you $20, but you playing here at the club. Don't they pay you?" He said, "Yeah, man, but by the time I have a couple of drinks,
get something to eat,
have something to eat, blah, blah, blah.
Upside down.
I owe them $15. I said, "What are you talking about?" I said, "Don't they give you your drinks and your food for free?" He said, "No, man, you're in the wrong place." I said, "I tell you what, I'll get your money from them. I'll loan you $20, but I'll get your money from them. And from now on, I'll make sure he pay you enough. You give me 10% of what you get." He said, "William R., if you can make that happen, you got a deal." I said, "Don't worry about it." So I called the boss over, his boss. I said, "Man, why are you charging these guys to eat? You got that whole kitchen back there. They playing all day. They get a little beer or something, and you charge them like you do customers. Don't they get a break for something?" He said, "But you don't understand. They're always late, and this, that, and the other." I said, "I tell you what, I'm gonna make sure. I'm gonna make sure they're here on time. You give them their food for free, and no less than 2 drinks. Don't make it strong. I'll deal with the beer. And you give them their money. And give me 10%.
I saw that coming.
So the guy said, they're going to be here on time. What if they ain't on time? I said, then I'll pay you 10%. He said, you got a deal. So that's the way it started. So let's say I got about 15 guys that I got in different places. Mm-hmm. Sometimes I put a show in here. And all the musicians know that don't mess around with my money. Don't be late. You understand?
And we all go eat.
So when it came time to when I took the deal at Motown, and Smokey knew that I was, dealing with the guys, and I had the best guys, but I wanted better guys for Motown. Mm-hmm. But so I knew James Jamerson when I used to watch him play, and what I loved about this guy at the time, he was playing upright in the clubs. Mm-hmm. But you know how musicians could like Jamerson would be playing, and he'd be singing his notes before he hit them.
Right, yeah. Marshall Hawkins does
that. Yes. Now, when they do that, man, that means they love this instrument.
Right.
They know exactly.
You can't have that on the record.
Yes. You know what I mean? So I said, man, you got to come and go, but you got to go with me at Motown. He said, man, the way you help me out, whatever you say. I said, now, I won't interfere with your gigs at night. Because when they close at 1 and 2 or 12, whatever they close, then that's when we start recording. So now you can keep that money, and then you can make this money per song. Mm-hmm. He said, well, you going to guarantee that we tomorrow? I said, have I let you down? He said, no. I said, then I ain't going to let you down now. He said, you got a deal. So I went to each guy that I liked, that I knew had that quality, and propositioned them the same way. And they started joining me. The only one I didn't get in a hurry was Earl Van Dyke.
Oh, he was a monster. Absolute beast.
I got Earl Van Dyke because James Jamerson, Earl Van Dyke was with some band that had come to Detroit.
Because he was from Tennessee, wasn't he?
Yeah, but they had some show he was with, and he was the organ player for that show. And they didn't get paid. Now, he's in Detroit, no money, no gig, don't know what's going to happen. And he called his friend James Jamerson, said, man, I got a problem. So James said, you got to meet Mickey Stevenson. Come on. Because he can take you on over there at Motown. And so he said, but he don't know me. He said, but I know you, and he knows me. So sure enough, James brings him to, I got a session going on in the studio. And James supposed to be on that session, and he come with his organ player, and he said, Mick, I want you to meet Earl Van Dyke. He's the organ player. He ain't got no money to running the story down. I said, I ain't got time to hear no story, man. Get your ass in there and let's get the session home. He said, but you ought to hear him play. And he was so persistent on me hearing him. Uh-huh. So I said, come on, man, you play the organ. Come on. I said, okay, now, there's the organ. So I said, James, could you get on the session, please? Let's get the story. I got 2 more sessions behind you. I'm running out of time and all that. While they end up tuning up and everything, Earl Van Dyke started playing. And when it's time for the producer to come in and get that particular song on, and they had the groove going, Earl was right in there hitting it. Mm-hmm. And I said, wow. And Jameson going like this, I told you. I told you. You know what I mean? So I hired him on the spot.
I guess so. The percussion relationship to the rhythm section, what part did you play in constructing that signature formula that became the foundation of the Motown sound?
I can't take the credit for it because I'm involved, but I can't take the credit. We had a drummer named Benny Benjamin.
Benny Bongo, wasn't it?
No, that was Bongo Eddie Brown.
Oh, okay, I got him mixed up. Okay. Benny
Benjamin. Benny was the baddest drummer in history. I wrote about him in my book in more detail. Mm-hmm. He had a problem in a drug situation, but the brother was phenomenal. Once you set him on the drums,
that's where you're supposed to be. I heard that.
We called him a metronome.
Yeah.
Don't you, no matter what you saying, he was right after. What you say, William? You know what I'm saying? He could talk, whatever, but he never
in the pocket, boy.
Stayed in the pocket.
Yes, yes.
And not extra stuff. Just kept it solid so that the bass player could get a. He still hit it. Never got off that. So the everybody could play around.
Ride right with him.
Ride right with him. I don't care what tempo it was. When he started, it's on.
Mm-hmm.
And what's so wonderful about that is when they were playing and the producer finished the song, the groove would still be locked in. They would be so locked into each other that they could not stop. You follow me?
Mm-hmm.
And so out of that, and then it would take it to another level and another level. Then the horn player feels something and he started blowing. And all of a sudden, you got a whole new song being developed there.
Musically, yeah.
From their hearts. Mm-hmm. And they would go for another 5 or 6 minutes before they could stop. Out of that come a whole nother track.
Oh,
a whole nother song.
God. I tell you, man, the power that was, we didn't know what we've just discussed, but we certainly felt it from one end of this country and then around the world. That Motown sound resonated with people in a way that no other label had ever connected to a much larger population, you know, and that's why I was so excited that you agreed to do the show. And I want to thank you, man, because there's a lot of people that say they're going to do something, their word don't hold up to it, but, you know, you told me you was going to come, man, and it's a joy for you to do this, man, because people need to know the importance of music. There was a brother by the name of Wilbert Longmire out of Cincinnati that wrote a song a long time ago called Music Speaks Louder Than Words. It's the only thing that the whole world listens to. The longer I live, the more I find that people won't take the time to really get to know a stranger and make him a friend. But the magic of a simple song makes everybody feel they belong. Music speaks louder than words. It's the only thing the whole world listens to.
That's very well put.
I connected that to Motown, though. And Wilbur Longmire played in a group called the Pacemakers in Cincinnati with Catfish Collins and Bootsy Collins. Were you there the day y'all put Bootsy and them out of there?
No.
You wasn't there? Bootsy told me he came to Detroit, wanted to meet James Jamerson, and didn't make it past the front door.
But I ain't allowed nobody in. I had rules and regulations.
Okay, Bootsy, Mickey put you out of there, man.
Inadvertently, yes, but personally, no.
Because George Clinton was from Detroit,
oh, yeah,
right?
Oh, yeah.
So,
I love George.
And once y'all rejected him, he got kicked out of the parking lot over there. This lady, they was heartbroken, you know, that they didn't get to do nothing in Motown. And she said, look, y'all wasn't going to work in Motown no way, you know, with that psychedelic stuff y'all were going to do. So you need to call this brother right here. And she hooked him up with George Clinton now. But the music family is so fascinating. Before we close out this first segment, I went to see the movie Detroit. And it really just was hard to sit through. Where were you at when the 67 riots in Detroit broke out?
It broke out right around my house. Oh yeah. I mean, not only around the house. I had a couple of white boys, one Jewish and another straight up white boy. We was all doing some business together in my house. I wouldn't let them out the door. I said, no, y'all go out here.
You ain't gonna make it. Not tonight.
You won't even get to the corner. So y'all stay here and have some food and eat. I never should have said have some food because I had a cook that was cooking, and biscuits and fried chicken and all that.
Yeah.
Man, them suckers stood there and ate for days. I'm talking about they. I said, wait a minute. Now I said y'all got to go home.
Oh, they stayed there for days.
Oh yeah. Well, I wouldn't let them out.
Wow.
No.
Well, we're gonna take a short pause and return with the second chapter, the present chapter of this remarkable man's life. We'll be right back.
Crime is increasing.
Man, that's the late, great Marvin Gaye. And that song it's timeless because there are days in 2017 that make me want to holler and throw up not one, but both my hands. Boy. Lord have mercy, man. So let's fast forward to 2017. People that have contributed as much to the advancement of modern music as we know it, contemporary music, would have sat down a long time ago. What keeps you getting up every day and leaving additional footprints?
I tell everybody that will listen, especially young people, when you find something that you love to do, and whether it be a job or whatever, if you love to do it, mainly with the job, it is a joy. It is no longer work. And that means there's not enough time in the day. And you don't want to stop. And that's a joy. It's a gift and it's a joy. And if they start off with that feeling, with that searching for something that they want to do in life, that they would love to do, go after it. Because it's not work. And that keeps me going because there's not enough time in the day for me. Just like being here with you and talking, and I can inspire people to do things. That's part of what I feel I should be doing. I enjoy doing this. I enjoy creating. I enjoy finding great, talented people. I enjoy telling them what I know that'll help them move on and be better. And I love creating. And that keeps me going. I don't have enough time in a day. I just do not.
If y'all doubt that, I don't care if you have his number or not, you're going to have trouble reaching him. It takes me 2 days to get in touch with Mickey Stevenson. And I just accept that as a part of the process. And I show a patience that I don't inherently have because of what he just said. He's still very much full of life. So let's look at the transition from your Motown days to what you're doing now and how that came about.
When I came to Los Angeles from Detroit, I came in to build a company for MGM called Venture Records. I was one of the first independent producers that corporations like that gave a reasonable amount of money to build a line. And I explained to them when they made that deal with me that I cannot build another Motown. There's only one. That was God's deal. Mm-hmm. I can build you another company, but I can't build you another Motown, so don't look for a miracle here. Mm-hmm. In that process of developing this company for them, or myself, of course, I went into an area on Vermont and Pico, I think it was. It was called Inner City Cultural Center. And there they had a lot of young people striving in this industry to be somebody. And they had dancers, writers, choreographers, they had directors, had a little stage, held about 200 people in the whole place. And they had a bunch of rooms, a gym, and I looked around and saw all these young people and some older ones in there striving, coming every day. There was a guy who was in charge of the artist part, and his name was Cliff Rockmore. Cliff Rockmore was a director and a teacher. Cliff was from Detroit. So Cliff called me, and he said, man, you got to come by here and say a few words to these people, to these students, these kids and all. And they know who you are, and it would be really a great help to me. So as a Detroit, you know how we do each other. Homies. I said, okay, man, I'll run by there. Mm-hmm. I ran in, and they started asking me some Motown questions. They were raising their hands. All of a sudden, I'm in a classroom, you know what I mean? And I'm talking and everything. And then Cliff said, well, we're doing this show, man, so would you write a song for our show? It's a musical, it's a play and all that. I said, well, I don't write songs for plays. I write records, you know. They say, well, we just want one song from you would be and the whole place went crazy. Please, yes, Mr. Stevenson, blah, blah, blah. Well, now they touched my heart. I said, okay, well, what's the play about? So they said, get up on the stage now. Let's show them a bit. So they got up. I saw these young people working. I mean, directing and acting. And I said, okay. So I told Cliff, I said, where would you want the song at? He said, well, right here at this spot. Could the song go there so we don't have to explain that moment? I said, so you want a song about that moment? He said, yeah. I said, okay, I'll give you a song. So, of course, I went home, wrote him a song, brought it back. The next day, I'm here in the studio and had the piano player in there. And I did the song. I even sang it personally and all that. And the place went crazy. So they went on. Then they said, could you get us one more song at another spot? So you see where that went from one more song. So in the process, I started learning about theater. I mean, from the bottom line, about actors, actresses, and what it took, to make it happen. Now, Cliff was very, very good. And I found myself the next time they asked me would I write the song for this whole show, this particular show. So I said, okay. Now I'm coming by there every other day. I'm coming by because I saw the energy, the love, it was just incredible. When the government or the city would pay them money to keep this place open, when they were broke and they needed like $1,000, something like that, they said, we may have to close down for a while because I said, how much is it? They said $1,000. I said, hey, I'll give you the check $1,000 when you get the money from the door. Give me my money back. So I found myself doing that with them on every 3 or 4 weeks. I had to give them a couple of $1,000. Right. But I learned more from them than they learned from me and from my.
It was a fast change.
It was phenomenal, and I learned about theater. Now my brother, who's a great director and writer and all that, I put him through school in New York, but I never paid any attention to that because I'm
music man.
Yeah. And now I start putting the two things together, and I said one day to Clifford, I want to write a show myself. I want you to help me. He said, man, I would love it. Let's do it. And I wrote a show called Showgirls. And we started putting it together and all that, and he helped me and all that. And I put that one aside, brought a great audience. The show ran for months at the Inner City Cultural Theater. And then I wrote a show called Swan. I took a Marvin Gaye, a Teddy Pendergrass, whatever, and made them all one character with a spiritual thing connected with it. And it went over so good till New York came out to look at the show, to take it back and put it up Broadway style. Yeah. And Clifford and I, they flew us into New York. All of a sudden, I found myself in a whole nother world. You know what I mean? And that didn't develop because the guy got sick that brought us in. He had Annie. He was one of the producers of Annie. Yes. And he got ill, and so the whole thing, went out. But I didn't stop. There I met some great people in New York that were in that business. They said, man, you're a Motown writer. You write, you're doing plays and stuff? I said, well, I kind of fell into that. But like anything else, I loved it. I love the people. I love the struggle. I love them developing themselves and all that. And it was kind of the same with the artist, because whether you're a singer, a writer, or producer, whatever, if you're spending your time and your energy making it happen, believing in yourself, studying and going at it, it's the same move. You know what I'm saying? And the results are the same. If you put in enough time at something, you become a professional at that thing. And that will make you a living. If you put in more time and really devote yourself to it, you become more than just a professional. You'll become, and you will make, and you'll make more money with it. So money should not be the game, the aim. Developing the process should be the aim. That brings the money. Right. So, to make a long story short, it put me into the theater business. And out of that, I've done, since then, maybe 5 or 6 shows, won 15 awards. I have some wonderful shows out there. So that's what I am doing today.
So what's the project now that you're involved in?
I have
Immersed in is a better way to put
immersed.
it. Yeah.
I have a show called Les Gems. Les Gems is an extension of the original Showgirls piece I did back then, only developed to another level, bringing in the problems of today for women. And I have 5 daughters, so I'm really
You know
serious.
something about that.
I know something about that.
Okay.
And it's a wonderful show. We're in process right now. As a matter of fact, I'm going to bring the girls down here for you.
Please.
I'll bring some of them in and let them tell you how
do.
they feel about doing this wonderful piece.
Yes.
And the name, I got the name Les Gems because I was called out by some organization in Nashville, Tennessee.
That's next door to where I'm from. Murfreesboro is 30 miles from Nashville.
Oh, really?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, I was called in there to speak. The woman that owned the newspaper, she owns them in 3 different cities, Nashville, Memphis, and someplace else.
Okay, the Tri-State Defender.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They called me in to speak for their organization. And I went in, and they heard about my book and everything, and they wanted me to talk. And I had no idea what they did, but I liked the way they spoke on the phone and et cetera, et cetera. I'll go in, and before my time to come up to do my speech, they had 7 girls on the stage, all of them graduating from high school, going to college. And these young ladies were incredible. They were going after incredible careers. I mean, wonderful. They were all AA students, the whole 9 yards. Well, the ladies group that brought me in was called Les Gems. And their movement was to see that these young ladies go to the right colleges and stay and be able to stay there financially. I thought that was incredible. My daughter, who was with me, said, "Dad, you got to help this. This is wonderful." And I was overwhelmed. And when I got off the stage with my speech and all that business, I went to the woman that brought me in, and I said, this is great. I'd like to know more about your organization, and because I'd like to help. My daughter's insistent, and I can feel it. And so my daughter said, she said, "Okay, we'll talk about it later." And my daughter said, "Okay, what do you want to do?" I said, "Well, I'm going to change the name of my show to Les Gems because the meaning is the same. Only mine is visual with music and et cetera, and I'm going to donate part of the proceeds to this organization so they can make more girls develop and et cetera." She says, "Oh, Dad." I say, "But I like the approval of the ladies' organization." So they had me come to Washington to meet the major part of the group. Of course, I went in and did another speech and all that. Told them what I wanted, and they said, "We would love it." That's incredible. So now I am so happy that I can. My daughter, of course, she passed, and so I devoted myself to make sure that this happens. And now it's happening. And we're in the process of developing this show, and I'm very happy about it. Wonderful show, wonderful show.
So when do you expect to make that available for public consumption?
I'm in the process of in rehearsals now, and I'm dealing with, I think it's Southwest College.
Yes, here in Los Angeles.
Here in Los Angeles. I'm dealing with them because I wanted to mount and develop it from that area so it comes out I want those people involved, like a Hamilton, shall we say? In other words, so I want the young people there in the community
sure.
to watch how a show is developed. The choreographer talks, my director speaks, my music guy speaks. I want students watching this thing happening and watch it develop. So I'm in the process of putting that on as we speak.
Well, that leads me to a very necessary segue. I met you years ago through a mutual friend of ours, Silk Cozart. And you were just as familiar then as you are now to me. And the next time I saw you many years later was downtown here in Los Angeles, Los Angeles Trade Tech. And I sat there and I watched how these architect students were just enthralled by the opportunity to produce something that would be a part of changing the way stage productions are done. And if you would kind of speak to that encounter and the implications of it, if you would.
Well, Marcella Oliva, she asked me to come in and speak to her students. Mm-hmm. And when I went to see her at the college, and I love talking with students. I love for them, the more inspiration I can get them to really do what they feel they want to do, mm-hmm. makes me feel good, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm there, and when I was walking around her particular area, mm-hmm. I saw the architects, the statues, the buildings, the plans, things that these people had developed and built and made, small formulas of it, mm-hmm. that's going to be put into main uses and built structures, right?
Usable structures.
And I said, wow, what a lot of talent in this room. And it came to me, I wanted to do a production there in the school, mm-hmm. and some shows and plays and stuff. And they had a wonderful place to make this happen, but no stage. Mm-hmm. And so when I was talking to Marcella, she said, well, you know, we got a place out here, we got a place over there. I said, but you don't have a stage, but you got the makings of a stage. She said, what do you mean? I said, your people, they build anything. Build the stage. Mm-hmm. Build a stage that can go up and down. Mm-hmm. And dressing rooms on both sides. You got the best people in the world, and you're one of the best architects in the business. Mm-hmm. She said, what a great idea. And from that point on, they started. And it got so incredible. 2 months later, she called me. She says, you got to come in. My students have something to show you. Mm-hmm. I said, okay. So I come back out to the college, and I'm in the room, and I said, she said, how many students will be there? I was going to surprise the students. She said, about 40. So I told my assistants, I said, give me 40 of my books. Let me just give it to them as a gift, from me. Mm-hmm. So I brought the books. Now I'm thinking I'll be there for a few minutes and, pass out some books, sign, right. Say hello, and wave at everybody. Right. When I walk in, they got the screen up. Everybody's quiet. She says, Mr. Stevenson is here, Mickey Stevenson. This is the cast. They have something to show you. She puts that button on the screen, and I saw some of the greatest stages designed by these wonderful people ever. They took the time to go out in different theaters and shows, look at stages, come up with their concepts, sit with Marcella, lay out the plans. They had it by inches, numbers, names. It was incredible. I found myself sitting there for 3 hours because I had to see every stage, right? Yeah. It was incredible. Mm-hmm. And they got it together right now. Mm-hmm. They're down to about 5 good ones. Right. That because you can't take all of them. You got to break it down. Mm-hmm. And I hated to let some of them go, but you got to get down to 1 or 2. Right. But when we met there, they were talking about the finalizing of those stages, and it was wonderful. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Well, see, the reason I brought that up is ideas are still emerging from that collaboration, because vocational training became ignored and neglected for 2 generations, and 2-year colleges are now something that people are looking at more seriously, and watching what happened over at Trade Tech through Marcella. And one of the people, the reason I was there is a gentleman that we're going to be meeting with after the show tonight, Wayne Fishback, and some of the ideas that we have, and we're excited about doing something. And you just gave me another idea about an event that we're going to do sometimes in October here in the Leimert Park. We may get a little sampling of Le Gym. You see what I mean? That's what we're going to do with that. Yeah. Just based on the energy. And one thing I want young people to take into consideration, and that is the circle of life. And as you go through it, if you do it to the extent that you have done it and inspire people like me to continue doing it, it does leave a trail. And it's never too late to make a mark in life, and to have a person sit next to me who has changed music and now who is impregnating the performing arts. Man, it's an honor to have you on my show today and to see you sitting here just still full of energy, full of commitment. And one of the things before we close out the show tonight that we talked about before the show started tonight is the fact that your son came in from Atlanta.
Oh, yeah.
And it does make a difference how you raise your children. And if you could kind of speak a little bit about your relationship with baby boy before we close the show there, I'd greatly appreciate it, man.
Well, Navo, I know he's in there hiding someplace.
Yeah.
Navo's a great writer, producer. As a matter of fact, I tell him that at his age now, and when I was his age, he's much better than I was. And he kept saying, "Dad, what are you talking about? Dad, you're writing some great records." I said, "Not only are you writing great songs, you've won awards. I mean, what can I tell you? That it speaks for itself." But he's a very focused, talented person. Talent is a gift from God. I tell everybody that. You can't make a person have talent. You can't develop it. You can't create it. You can develop it. And it's given to you. And some of us get more than one talent. Some of us have 2 and 3 talents. The point is, recognize it and work with it. And he has done that. I mean, from not only writing, playing, creating, now he's got the camera in his hand. And it's nonstop. And it's a joy to see that happen.
Well, I'm going to take you down south. He's a chip off the old block, and the splinters got to fly.
Oh, that's good.
And so the significance of that is before we let this thing, run further off the tracks than it has, Models of Possibility and Best Practices, my stock and trade at Uncle Bobby's Country Corner, and having you here has made this show credible in that way. And I think we share that common mission of allowing the succeeding generations to understand that we're not just relics. We don't know everything, but some of the things that we know can be beneficial to the journey that's before these youngsters that are trying to find their way, man. And
we got to pass it on.
Yeah, and it's exciting to know that you're still making moves and making history, and I'm excited about the possibility of collaboration with you and Marcella and Wayne and some other talented people at a point in American history where it's not, it doesn't make sense to look to the White House or the outhouse. Try your house. Okay, that's where the action is. You know what I mean? And as we close out, I'd like for you to once again, Portis, if you would, post up Wayne. I mean, not Wayne, but there it is.
There
right
it is.
there.
The A&R man.
Motown's first A&R man presents the A&R man. I tell you what, man. It's just so important that we support and learn from. Forget about the support part of it. They always used to tell us when we was coming up, if you want to hide something from black folks, where you going to put it? Between the covers of a book. And in that book right there, if you have any interest in the performing arts or how business and history is made, you need to get a copy of that book by Mickey Stevenson, The Motown Days and Beyond.
Yeah. It's on Amazon, and some of the proceeds for that book go to help young students in this industry develop.
Man.
I love that.
So thank you so much, Mickey, for coming through tonight. And as I close out tonight, I want to just share a thought with whoever gets a chance to listen to this show. Many years ago, when Marvin Gaye moved to Los Angeles with the rest of the Motown group, one of the people he came very close to was Jim Brown. Mm-hmm. And after y'all were struggling with what to do with what's going on, he took it to Jim's house. And he sat in the living room at Jim's house, and he played it for him. And he said, I don't know what they're waiting on. But that was so revolutionary and game-changing, and everybody was on pins and needles in terms of what that was going to do to the image of the country. Oh, yeah. And Jim showed me where Marvin sat when he played in What's Going On. And every time I visit with Jim, and that's something that we'll get a chance to do one day, sit down and just talk about that with the big
we
fella.
got to do that.
And Jim has always been the kind of man that over the 30 years I've known him, that he would encourage people to do what it is that they feel they need to do. And it's people like yourself and Jim Brown that I want young people to understand. They continue to give back. And whether you think you can relate to them or not, someday you're going to grow old. Bless your soul.
It's coming.
And in the meantime, absorb as much history as you possibly can and apply it to your present-day life. Poetess, I want to thank you once again for allowing me to share this space with you on Tuesday evenings, and the work continues each and every day. Thank you for letting me be myself. Mickey Stevenson, ladies and gentlemen, the Motown A&R man.
Thank you. Thank you. I want to thank you, too, for letting him be himself with me.
So until next Tuesday, share this. If you've seen it, share it with some people, particularly young people. They need to know the trails that have been blazed by our predecessors that are still amongst us. We're done for this Tuesday. Have a great evening.
Have a great evening.